Dr. Natalia Canem, Ms. Maria Luisa Ribeiro Viotti, Mr. Jeffrey Jordan, Ambassador Salas, Mr. Ernesto Salas, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shervin Brycebees of the South African Broadcasting Corporation, and I'm delighted to welcome you all to the 17th Salas Memorial Lecture, and it is so great to see so many of you in person after our virtual event last year. In addition to those joining us in person, the lecture is also being recorded and live streamed around the world, so I urge you to sit up straight. This is a global remarks. I'm now delighted to introduce the remarks by Mr. Ernie Salas, the son of Rafael Salas. Last year we heard from his mother, Ambassador Salas, and we are thrilled that Mr. Ernie Salas is able to join us this year. Over to you.
Thank you, Chef de Cabinet, for those wonderful comments. And thank you, Natalia, for the warm welcome and for convening these lectures every year. Thank you, Jeff, for agreeing to be this year's lecturer. Excellencies, colleagues, and friends. Today I'm joined by my mother, Ambassador Salas, my wife Pinky, and Maya, who are in our virtual audience along with dozens of our dear family and friends. I cannot tell you how delighted I am to be here and how grateful I am to share some time with you this morning. I wanted to start by saying that professionally, I reside in the private sector, happily immersed in corporate America, and in my role, speaking in rooms with groups of people is a regular occurrence for me. But I have never, ever spoken in the trusteeship council chamber or used the word excellencies in a salutation. So two very big firsts for me. To be honest, given the newness of all this, I'm extremely nervous right now. It's not a surprise. As a matter of fact, right after I decided to speak, I was very anxious. So I tried to get more comfortable, and I did that by reading. So I started reading. I read about our speaker, Jeffrey Jordan. I read about the great work of the UNFPA. And when I finished reading, I wasn't anxious anymore. I wasn't anxious anymore because all of it left me inspired. It left me optimistic. And in today's world, I will take inspiration and optimism wherever I can get it. With my internet research done, I stepped away from my computer and I started to reflect on memories of my dad and the UNFPA. And I'd like to share some of those memories with you now. When I was a young child, my father would occasionally take me to work with him. At one point, his office was right here in UN headquarters. And my favorite part of the visit was the walk from the basement parking lot to his office. It was such a journey, listening to the warm greetings from the security officers from different nations, all of whom he knew by first name, reading the signage that was written in both French and English. I learned that pousser and tirer meant push and pull on those trips. Gazing at every astounding piece of art along the way. To this day, I can't think of many experiences more sensational or marvelous than following my dad through the great halls of the United Nations. Like many of you, my father traveled extensively, and he was away from home most of the year. On the days he would return, I'd rush home with excitement, knowing that he would arrive with stories about new connections, cultures and food from faraway places, and toys. My room was filled with toys bought from shops around the world. And when Dad was home, he and my mother would entertain. They would host dinner parties in our apartment. Dignitaries, colleagues, and friends from everywhere, eating, drinking, laughing, and celebrating. On any given weekend, it seemed like the entire global village was on parade in our living and dining room. To me, my father's passion for sharing the UNFPA's mission with the world comes as no surprise, because he had that very same passion for sharing the world with our family. Turning to this lecture series, every speaker has been incredible. But the two lectures that were most memorable for me were in 2003 and 2018. In 2003, when Dr. Jeffrey Sachs delivered his lecture, I secretly asked my wife to marry me right before the Q&A. We treated the reception afterwards as our engagement party. And in 2018, my daughter Maya and her 7th grade class attended the lecture delivered by President Michelle Bachelet of Chile. It was quite something to see our daughter and her friends speak and mingle with the president herself in the delegates' dining room. Recounting all these memories made me realize that everything about this lecture reminds me of family and holding family dear. I think many would agree in this day and age, the practice of holding family dear is something we could all do more of. Looking back on it all, I am certain that to my dad, the UNFPA was also family. So with that said, here we are, gathered for the 17th lecture in memory of my dad. On behalf of Rafael Salas and our family, I would like to thank you. I'd like to thank you for this moment. Thank you for this lecture series. Thank you for all the work that you have done and the work you have ahead of you. Thank you all.